again. Welcome to Myths, Legends, Stories, and Tales with Lady Liadan. Today we're going to read the book Stone Soup by Marcia Brown. Three soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Besides being tired, they were hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. "Oh, how I would like a good dinner tonight," said the first. "And a bed to sleep in," said the second. "Well, that's impossible," said the third. "We must march on." On they marched. Suddenly, ahead of them, they saw the lights of a village. "Maybe we'll find a bite to eat there," said the first. "And a loft to sleep in," said the second. "No harm in asking," said the third. Now the peasants of that place feared strangers. When they heard that 3 soldiers were coming down the road, they talked among themselves. What do you think they said to each other? "Here come 3 soldiers. Soldiers are always hungry, but we have little enough for ourselves." And they hurried to hide their food. They pushed sacks of barley under the hay in the lofts. They lowered buckets of milk down in the wells. They spread old quilts over carrot bins, and they hid their cabbages and potatoes under beds. They hung their meat in the cellars. They hid all they had to eat. Then they waited. The soldiers stopped at the first house of Paul and Francoise. "Good evening to you," they said. "Could you spare a bit of food for 3 hungry soldiers?" "We have no food for ourselves for 3 days," said Paul. Francoise made a sad face. "It has been a poor harvest." The 3 soldiers went on to the house of Albert and Louise. "Could you spare a bit of food? And have you some corner where we could sleep for the night?" "Oh no," said Albert. "We gave all we could spare to the soldiers who came before you. Our beds are all full." At Vincent and Marie's, the answer was the same. It had been a poor harvest, and all the grain must be kept for seed. So it went through all the village. Not a peasant had any food to give away. They all had good reasons. One family used the grain for feed. Another had an old sick father to care for. All had too many mouths to feed. The villagers stood in the street and sighed. They looked as hungry as they could. The 3 soldiers talked together. What do you think the soldiers are going to say to each other? Then the first soldier called out, "Good people!" The peasants drew near. We are 3 hungry soldiers in a strange land. We have asked you for food, and you have no food. Well then, we will have to make some stone soup." The peasants stared. Stone soup? That would be something to know about, don't you think? "First, we'll need a large iron pot," the soldiers said. The peasants brought the largest pot they could find. How else to cook enough? "That's none too large," said the soldiers, "but it will do. And now water to fill it and fire to heat it." What do you think they're going to do? took many buckets of water to fill the pot. A fire was built on the village square, and the pot was set to boil. Look at them carrying all the water. That's a big pot. That takes a lot of water. And now, if you please, 3 round, smooth stones. Those were easy enough to find. The peasants' eyes grew round as they watched the soldiers drop the stones into the pot. That must make yummy soup, don't you think? Any soup needs salt and pepper, said the soldiers, as they began to stir. The children ran to fetch salt and pepper. Stones like these generally make good soup, but oh, if there were carrots, it would be much better. Why, I think I have a carrot or two, said Francoise, and off she ran. She came back with her apron full of carrots from the bin beneath the red quilt. What do you think's happening? A good stone soup should have plenty of cabbage, said the soldiers as they sliced the carrots into the pot. But no use asking for what you don't have. I think I could find a cabbage somewhere, said Marie, and she hurried home. Back she came with 3 cabbages from the cupboard under the bed. If only we could have a little bit of beef and a few potatoes, the soup would be good enough for a rich man's table. The peasants thought that over. They remembered their potatoes and the sides of beef hanging in the cellar. They ran to fetch them. A rich man's soup, and all that from a few stones. It seemed like magic. What's really happening? Ah, sighed the soldiers as they stirred in the beef and the potatoes. If only we had a little barley and a cup of milk. This soup would be fit for the king himself. Indeed, he asked for just such a soup when last he dined with us. The peasants looked at each other. The soldiers had entertained the king? Well, but no use asking for what you don't have, the soldiers sighed. The peasants brought out their barley from the lofts. They brought their milk from the wells. The soldiers stirred the barley and the milk into the steaming broth while the peasants stared. So do you think that sounds really good? Stone soup, yum, yum, yum. At last the soup was ready. All of you shall taste, the soldiers said. But first, a table must be set. Great tables were placed in the square, and all around were lighted torches. I can smell it already. It smells yummy. Such a soup! How good it smelled! Truly fit for a king. But then the peasants asked themselves, would not such a soup require bread? And a roast and cider? Soon a banquet was spread, and everyone sat down to eat. Never had there been such a feast. Never had the peasants tasted such a soup. And fancy, made from stones. What really happened? They ate and drank and ate and drank, and after that they danced. They danced and sang far into the night. At last they were tired. Then the 3 soldiers asked, "Is there not a loft where we could sleep?" Let 3 such wise and splendid gentlemen sleep in a loft? Indeed, they must have the best beds in the village. So the first soldier slept in the priest's house. The second soldier slept in the baker's house, and the third soldier slept in the mayor's house. In the morning, the whole village gathered in the square to give them a send-off. "Many thanks for what you have taught us," the peasants said to the soldiers. "We shall never go hungry now that we know how to make soup from stones." "Oh, it's all in knowing how," said the soldiers, and off they went down the road. Such men do not grow on every bush. The end. So what do you think about this tale? This is an old one, and it's been told many, many times. What do you think stone soup really is? What is it about? That's all the time we have for today. We'll see you next time.